Hey everybody, this is Jason Ostrowski, and welcome to another edition of the Everything Real Estate Podcast. In today's episode, we are going to talk about building your personal brand. You know, in today's real estate world, it is incredibly important to treat your business like a business. And part of having a successful business in the real estate world is to have brand awareness in your community, brand awareness online, brand awareness on social media. You want people to recognize who you are. So we're going to talk about building that personal brand, what to convey to your potential clients, being authentic. We're going to get into all of the relevant topics when it comes to building your brand with our Vice President of Marketing and Brand, Melissa Cunningham. Melissa's going to give us some tips and tools that we can use to help build a strong personal brand, convey our message to our potential clients out there, and make our business better. So let's get right into it with Melissa, and we'll pick it up on the other side. We are here today to talk about personal branding. And I feel like it is more important than ever for agents to focus on the importance of promoting a strong personal brand. You know, we're just in a different day and age, right? Since the advent of social media, we've had to have that strong personal presence online. That personal branding needs to be on point with what we're doing. And we see the most successful agents out there have a very strong personal brand. So easy question to start for you. Why is it more important than ever for agents to focus on the importance of promoting a strong personal brand? You know, after all, if we look at teenagers on social media, they get the power of having a strong personal brand. Why don't we see it as much in our business?
You know, there's two reasons, I think. First is a simple one. It's time. And time is because our agents, you're independent business owners and operators. You have to be everything to everybody. So what's easy to push to the side or to say, I'll get to it later, is your personal brand. Because what are you doing? You need to make the connections, prospect, handle customers, handle transactions, all of the details. So I think time is one answer, and that is perfectly reasonable. I think the other one too is some hesitation. So if you take your analogy of a teenager, teenagers are having fun, right? They put their brand out there because they're being silly, they're goofy, they have something to say, whatever it is. Maybe they feel they have less to lose potentially than what we're doing running a business. You think, oh my gosh, if I make a misstep, then I've caused an impact on my livelihood. So what I was thinking about talking about today is about trying to take that stress off yourself and to be yourself. Channel your inner teenager and get your voice out there. And, you know, I'm hoping today that we'll talk about some different ways to get your voice out there.
Well, if I channeled my inner teenager, there would be a lot of angst involved in that. You know, I grew up in the grunge era, so you know, it was all about, you know, it was all about having a bad attitude and showing it to the world. You know, our Gen Xers out there. So I
clients, Jason.
What's that?
I said that may not gain you clients.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. My bad real estate attitude. So I do want to say that when it comes to branding, and I want to go back specifically to someone we had on the podcast who was Marky Lemons Ryle. We had on at one point in time, and she came on, and for those of you can't see this right now, but I am wearing my branded shirt. I'm wearing my branded hat since we're talking about brand today. And Marky came on all decked out in all her personal gear, right? And at one point in time in my career, I never would have done that ever. I never would have gotten personally branded hats or sweatshirts or whatever. Now I'm like a walking billboard, and I really don't care. And I think that's the distinction. You know, you mentioned sometimes we have paralysis by analysis. Mm-hmm. And I feel like if we're not going to put ourselves out there, no one's going to do it for us. I mean, maybe outside of the company, which we'll talk about. But, you know, we have to be the keepers of our own brand, right? And we have to put it out there in the world in the way that we want it to. And now, like, I proudly wear my hat and my stupid sweatshirt everywhere. And, you know, hopefully people will take notice of it. But it's gotten a positive reaction. So for those of you that are kind of overthinking things, just do it. That's what I would say. Just go for it. There's nothing bad that's going to happen to you. Okay. All right. So just like any other small business, an important aspect of what we do as real estate agents is to market ourselves to get more business, obviously. But one thing we typically do not do well enough is to have a cohesive personal brand across all platforms that's consumer facing. So, having a brand is the first step, but to have a cohesive brand supercharges what we do marketing wise. So, Melissa, what is the benefit of having synergy across our marketing platforms with our personal brand?
So the synergy is just what you said, is the cohesion. And believe it or not, it builds trust and relatability. So a brand, I want to take a step back here and talk about what is brand. So again, you guys can't see, I'm looking at Jason in his awesome basement recruiting studio, speaking of the grunge era. And he has his great logo. I think it's a house on wings, maybe with a big O in it. There you go. All right. Yeah. On the hat, on his trucker hat he's wearing. And so that's his visual brand, right? That's his logo. That's the color scheme, the lettering he's picked. But your brand is bigger than that. Your brand is you. Your brand is who you are bringing to the table when a client meets you. So when we think about the cohesive experience across all the platforms, that's who's your voice? Who's the audience you're talking to? Are you funny? Are you irreverent? Are you making connections with your community? Are you serious about market statistics? And you don't have to be just one dimension, but I'm saying when you think about what is the note or the tone that you're going to put forward as your brand, what is that? And as I said earlier, it's really about who are you? To convey your brand in the best way possible, you have to be authentic to who you are. So when you were talking about Marquis Lemon's, I forget her last name.
Right.
I've seen her. We had her on a Friday forum before. She is larger than life. Like, I don't know if she's like that in her downtime, but part of her personal brand is that she is boisterous and loud and funny and kind of in your face. So it's her demeanor and how she puts herself out as much as it is about the phrasing and the great slogans that she has on her t-shirts.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. And I want to give a special shout out to someone in the company that I love. I love our videos that we've done together. Cassie Lukasiewicz, which she used to be with me in Jenkintown. And we recorded some videos together, and the authenticity of those videos is vitally important. Cassie would tell me, just be yourself. And I'm a goofball. So for me, when we record, I do like stupid things. That's just my personality. But whatever your personality is, it has to shine through. It is such an important part of your branding and gaining businesses by people seeing that you be authentic wherever you're putting your stuff out to. And so, you're not going to fake who you aren't, Mm-hmm. So just be who you are. I think that's the easiest thing that we can do, right? I can only be myself. And so I'm just going to kind of lean into that a little bit. So speaking of, authentic branding and what we can do to kind of help ourselves out there, Fox and Roach offers all kinds of help with agents' personal brand and marketing. What are some of your favorite tools and programs that we have at Fox and Roach to increase an agent's exposure out there to the marketplace? Because I feel like sometimes we don't know where to start with our branding. And they can always come to you, right? And they can always come to our marketing department. So what are some of your favorite tools and programs that we have to offer?
So I think, when I think about our company and what we've built, especially in my tenure here at the company, is we try to think about that all of our agents are unique. They're their own people. They're promoting their businesses in their own ways. And everyone's marketplace is different. So who you are is different. The marketplace you're talking to is different. The niche that you want to hit is different. So we need to have an array of tools and services that help you do that. So it could be, if you're thinking creativity and wanting to create social posts or brochures, postcards, et cetera, our ACE Design Studio which is similar to Canva. It's like Canva plugged into real estate. So you can take the company branding pieces on there, or you could work with a marketing department or marketing concierge to have your own style of pieces created and put onto the platform. But if that feels like a step too far and you're like, oh gosh, I don't even know how, I don't even want to get on this platform and figure out how to be creative, which is A-okay. There's other tools. So there's something you've probably heard of Agent Icon. We were also calling it Go Social. That is a very simple, it's called a boomerang service. How cool is that? Where you text out photos, either of something in the community or a listing, comes back with a headline branded to it. You accept the image you want and then post it up to your social channels. The service, which is a free service for everyone, also sends you social posts, and you can pick from categories on there. So if you don't even want to think about what you want to put out there, grab something that's already been created. So as Jason said earlier, just do it.
Yeah.
And then if you want to get more specific, so then I was going to reference too, as we mentioned, our marketing concierge team. So that's a team that is based in every region, and they're like having a marketing assistant in your back pocket. So you can use them as much or as little as you want. It's a very affordable hourly rate, and they can do the marketing for you. They can do a consultation. They can set it up. And then the last thing I really wanted to plug too is listing concierge. So listing concierge helps you when you have a listing. What I like about it is the fact that the program is set up to promote your listing as far and wide as we can do it. And you don't have to think about it. You just pick the package you want, hit go, and everything else gets taken care of for you. So what that does is it buys you time. It gives you time to build those relationships, work with your clients, and you're not worrying about how are you marketing your listing. So it's a little bit off the personal branding topic, but what I like about it is it gives you back time.
There has never been an easier time to do less and get your brand out there, right? I feel like there are people that we can hand this stuff off to a lot of times, and we don't need to think about X, Y, or Z, right? It's taking advantage of those programs and those tools that you really need to think about, because when it comes to marketing concierge, when it comes to listing concierge, you had mentioned Agent Icon, which I'll use before I go into a listing appointment, right? I'll just take a picture of the house, and you talk about the boomerang effect, right? It comes back right away before I go into this listing, that I can bring these things, to the sellers and say, listen, I just did this in your driveway in 2 seconds. Now I can market this out, right? There are so many tools that we can take advantage of. I remember starting as a new agent, and I feel like we were kind of in the Jurassic period in terms of like marketing yourself, right? It was Absolutely. Such a different time and place. And we have come so far in such a short period of time that it's really impressive. So take advantage of what we have is what I would say. Make sure you are using these tools because they're there for you. They help your business. Everybody, even if you're doing your own branding, can be supplemented by what we do at Fox and Roach. And so I want to talk a little bit about something that I really love that happened this year, and that's the brands refresh. Yeah. And the look and feel. And although it may be subtle, the difference is really notable when you compare the old and the new. Specifically, I did some marketing this year that I originally did last year, and we revamped it for this year. And it had the old Berkshire Hathaway logo on it compared to the new. And the old one already to me looks like archaic. Right. I think the new one looks so modern and nice and sleek. So I want to talk about that a little bit with you, because can you speak a little bit about the process of the brand refresh and why was that important for us to do?
So you may not know, Jason, did you know that the Berkshire Hathaway Home Services brand is 10 years old this year?
I did not, but it makes sense because I remember 2013 very well, and us becoming part of Berkshire Hathaway.
That's right. That's right. We went from Prudential Real Estate to Berkshire Hathaway Home Services. So, I mean, those 10 years, that decade has flown by. Oh my goodness. Yes. So why was it important? It was really important because we had to look at being digital first. And I liked our original logo. I thought it was, it was classy. It definitely kind of felt elegant. But when you try to use it digitally, just to kind of geek out here for a second, the font that was used had a lot of headers and footers. It had little feet on the letters. Now, next time you look at our old logo, you'll be like, I see what she means. And then when you shrink it down to work digitally, it just gets messy and it gets hard to read. So the first thing that the branding company, which was 1,000-watt, by the way, if anyone follows 1,000-watt, highly recommend it. If anyone wants to email me after or once they hear the podcast, melissa.cunningham@foxroach.com. I'd be happy to send you links to get yourself signed up with a 1,000-watt newsletter. But they are terrific guys. Anyway, so they needed to take it there. The charge they were given from Berkshire Hathaway Home Services, the corporate franchise, was the brand has to enter the next decade as a digital first presence. So that meant relooking. We have a long name. There's no getting around it. There's a lot of letters in Berkshire Hathaway Home Services. And we do not want to get rid of the Berkshire Hathaway name. I mean, to be associated with the icon that is Warren Buffett and the success that he has created, that is part of the strength of our brand. So they looked at working on a logo type that was cleaner and worked in a digital environment. They also looked at refreshing the Cabernet brand. So the Cabernet color was polarizing when it first came out. People were like, what, purple? Our company color is purple? Some people loved it. Some people hated it. But what I thought was strong about it is that it's unique. If you look around, there were, at the time, 10 years ago, there were no other brokerages in the U.S. or major brokerages in the U.S. that went with a Cabernet color or a purple color. Everything was primary or black and white. So number one, that set us out as being distinctive. So they took that Cabernet color, they added vibrancy and a little bit of red and pink to it. So that is the new Cabernet shade. And I think it's a great refresh. The original Cabernet was a little heavy, a little dead, honestly. So couldn't be more excited about it.
Yeah, I think it was just time. It was just time to do it. I think it looks great. I think they knocked it out of the park from the standpoint of it wasn't a drastic change, but it was a needed change. And it definitely gives new life and new energy into our marketing, I feel like, from my standpoint. I geek out on that kind of stuff. I think I've mentioned in a previous podcast, like I am such a sucker for marketing. So if I'm out like at a Wawa and I want something to drink and I want to choose, say, a soda, I will gravitate towards the soda that has the best marketing on the can. I just will. Whatever is pleasing to me, to my eyeballs, it doesn't matter if it has 50 grams of sugar in it. I'm still going to drink it because I like it, So, all right. So if you were an active agent, I want to ask you this question. If you were an active agent, what would be some low-hanging fruit that you would focus on right away to maximize your brand?
I would start with the foundation. So starting with the foundation is, how do your clients see you online? Because, as much as I just said, our brand is digital first, your clients are generally going to find you in some digital capacity. So what you can do is you can do it yourself, or you could work with the marketing concierge team, and they can do what's called a digital influence audit. Isn't that a great, memorable term? Speaking of branding, digital influence audit. And that is really just my fancy way of saying, Google yourself. How do you show up? So is your headshot consistent? Is your contact information accurate and consistent? You wouldn't believe what we see when we look up people. And it's just because you get busy and you forget where you're showing up online. But look at all the major real estate search sites, Zillow, Realtor.com, Fox and Roach, Berkshire Hathaway. Do you look the same across all the platforms? Do you have a bio? Is your bio well written and interesting? And spoiler alert, we can help you write your bio. So take advantage of the services we offer. I mean, I know as much as I do this all day, every day, writing my own bio is extremely hard. I usually get someone else to do it for me because it's just hard. So reach out to your marketing concierge or your regional marketing manager, and we can definitely help you for it. And then, so if that's a foundation, doing your own digital influence audit. So next, low-hanging fruit is Google My Business. So if you don't have a Google My Business page set up, you definitely want to do that. Again, think about that your client, someone who encounters your name or you're referred to a client, they're going to Google you. So you want to make sure that you show up first and you're easy to find on the page. And Google My Business is also especially important for mobile search, because next time you do it, if you haven't already tried it, grab your phone, do a search for some business in your area. And if they have a Google My Business page set up, you will see them appear front and center. It's very easy then to call them, look at reviews, find their website, see their hours, whatever it is. So that's your number 2. And finally, the number 3, I would say, for low-hanging fruit is what Jason and I keep saying. It's just do it. Mm-hmm. Don't worry about the analysis by paralysis. It's the consistency of building your personality out there and just doing it. Post your thoughts, do a quick video. And remember, social media is ephemeral. Not enough coffee yet this morning. Still convention hangover. No. So it is more important to be consistent and to be frequent in what you put out there as your branding and as your messaging than to have that one perfectly produced piece of content, because one social post or one videos is not enough.
I think the agents will agree that your vocabulary is much too large for this podcast. So ephemeral, I think people's eyeballs roll into the back of their skull. I think you just broke. I think you just broke out there. So I do agree with you 100%. And I feel like, when it comes to branding and just doing these things, I do feel like we tend to follow people a lot of times, right? And we want to branch out and not look like everybody else, because I think one thing that we fall into the trap of is, oh, this person's doing this, I have to do it the exact same way, to keep yourself in that kind of that box with everybody else. So nothing looks kind of outlandish. Mm-hmm. You're kind of driving in that same lane with everybody else. And I think there's nothing worse that we can do than to do that, because your authentic self may be something very different than what everybody else is putting out there. And I feel like when people turn left, a lot of times we have to turn right, to get ourselves noticed. So what are some tips to differentiate yourself when it comes to branding and not having your branding look like everybody else's branding?
I think it's easier than many people think. And it's easier because you're you and no one else is you, right? So it goes back to being authentic. And I know I'm making this sound easy, and I recognize it is not. It is hard to put yourself out there. I know that. But you will be different whether you choose to use the company's Cabernet branding, because maybe you want to lean into that, or maybe you're like, nah, I want to be 100% different, and I'm going to be pink and green and orange and whatever color scheme or style appeals to you. But you are you, and clients connect with who you are. So one of the things, again, love it or hate it with this business, is your headshot. And unlike almost any other business out there, we use our headshots. So that is how clients connect with you. I know that, I've worked with thousands and thousands of agents. I've been here a long time, by the way, guys. So I've worked with thousands of agents on their personal branding and helping them to identify how do they want to portray themselves out there. And, it's all about figuring out what your voice is, who's the audience that you want to speak to, and then what's the content, or what's the messaging that you want to consistently put out there. So I think it's a little bit less of the visual of what we're talking about, and it's a little more of the consistently putting out that message, whether it's emails, texts, phone calls, videos, what have you.
Yeah. And again, consistency is the key to anything that we do. So, if you start a marketing campaign, you see the results that you're getting. If you're not getting the results that you want, then you switch it up and you try something different, right? It doesn't mean that this is going to be set in stone forever. Like I've changed my logo probably like 10 times through the year, right? My tagline has changed through the year because I'm trying to constantly perfect what I'm putting out there to get results for my business, right? And it's easy to measure because if you're not getting results, then maybe it's time to try something a little bit different. But you have to try, and I keep coming back to that point: is that have a cohesive message, a cohesive brand for yourself, put it out there, and if it doesn't work, you try something different. It's as simple as that. And so, I want, and I don't want to beat a dead horse here because I feel like we're always talking about this no matter what. But, video is a critical part of what we do on places like Instagram, YouTube, or even TikTok, right? We don't know the future of TikTok, but for now, video work is very important. We hear it time and time again. But before that, it was non-video social media when we had new programs online like Facebook. That ruled the day for our new frontier of branding and marketing, right? And before that, maybe magazine ads. I think I'm actually still on a tabletop in a diner in Lansdale. Ann and I actually paid for ad space on a tabletop in a diner in Lansdale that was only supposed to be for 2 years. It's now like 15 years later, and we're still on those tabletops, which is pretty awesome. It's the gift that keeps on giving. And even shopping carts. Remember shopping carts? Everybody would put their name and contact information, their picture on a shopping cart. So everything evolves over time in terms of our marketing, in terms of our branding. So what do you see on the horizon, Melissa, as the next step in the evolution of branding for real estate agents?
Well, you gave me a perfect segue. When you said that everyone's going left, you've got to go right. I'm going to take the counter opinion here. And I'm going to say it's the personal connections and it's going deep.
Okay. All right.
The reason I say this is we are saturated, flooded, overwhelmed with digital.
Yeah.
There's a place for it. 100% there's a place for it. I'm not saying ignore digital. I'm saying that there is so much noise out there. I mean, think about what you used to see in your Facebook feed or what you used to see in your Instagram feed, even a couple of years ago. Before today, right? It was more authentic. It was more connections. I remember, again, to date myself here, I remember when Facebook first started up. And I remember we had a college intern from Villanova in the marketing department. And she was a native Facebook user. And I was like, oh, Facebook's just for young people. But, I went on there and I was like, oh, my eyes opened and I got to connect with my friends from around the world and see what they were up to. And I still see a little bit of that. But what I really see is lots of ads and lots of people trying to push messaging at me, buy my product. You're not enough unless you do X, Y, Z. Take my magic pill and you will miraculously lose 30 pounds. So I'm taking the left-hand turn, let's say. And I think that we should deepen our connections with the people who know us. I believe that you will have a stronger base of referrals and you will have a deeper connection with your clients. If you look at trying to connect with more people, is it going out for coffee? Is it taking clients to lunch? Is it simply committing to making 5 phone calls a day with your clients or people in your network and having those authentic conversations? Because I think that we need to try to move away from spending your energy and your angst on being all things to all people on digital platforms, instead circling back to making your connections.
I agree wholeheartedly with what you just said, because one of the things that I discussed out in Las Vegas was my need to really start to get back with my client. I mean, I follow up with my clients. I do. But taking them, you had mentioned, like taking them out to lunch, right, is something that I can do. And so I set out to have a goal when I was out there to take, I started out small. I said, I'm going to take 4 clients out to lunch per month. So if I could do once a week, scheduled time to take one of my clients out to lunch, I guarantee you that is going to bring me business. It's finding the time to do these things and making sure to follow up with people, right? Because we get stuck in the day to day all the time. And I thought about something when you were talking about, digital marketing and how everybody's trying to gain your business one way or another because everything is geared towards digital, right? And taking advantage of this or that. Since we were out in Vegas, I keep thinking of this. Vegas is, say what you want if you love Las Vegas. I don't mean to dunk on Las Vegas here, but it is very plastic, right? It is very artificial. And I feel like there is a correlation to what we're seeing a lot in the digital space on Instagram, on Facebook. Everything is artificial. It is there. The message may be one thing, but really we know it's transparently trying to gain our business, right? And we see agents do that a lot. Again, we go back to authenticity and trying to build those relationships with people. I think a lot of times we're very surface oriented. We're not getting down to what people really want, people really need. Are we providing value? I always think about, if I am being represented by you, what do I want to see? What is important to me as a consumer? Because you had mentioned Google and Googling yourself. And what do we do when we are out there looking up a restaurant? We're looking at, last year I had to have my trees trimmed because I have these huge trees in my yard. So I'm Googling tree business after tree business. I'm reading the reviews. I'm looking at where they're located. I'm Googling everything I can because it's an expensive thing, right? And let's face it, us as real estate agents, we're not cheap, right? So people are going to Google you and they're going to go with the one that they feel most comfortable with. So anyway, just wanted to add those thoughts. So last question, Melissa, because I got to get you out of here on time. Being in your position, do you ever take notice and get ideas from companies or businesses outside of real estate that have amazing branding? Because we had talked about this earlier. I look for amazing branding all the time. So if you do, who do you admire when it comes to marketing their brand the most? What are some companies out there, or some maybe individuals that do a great job branding? Who do you admire?
Yeah, no, great question. And you're absolutely right. I am an absolute geek for design, for branding, for something cool catching my eye, and it can be big or small. But when I was thinking about examples, I wanted to pick examples of brands that I thought the listening audience would know and relate to. So I picked 3. So the first I'm going to start with is Nike. I know that, or Nike, however you pronounce it. Jokingly, I've said just do it, and I kind of was being deliberate with that throughout what we were chatting today. Mm-hmm. But when you think about Nike, as compared to the other athletic brands that are big, that are out there, I think they stand alone because they tell a story. They don't say, buy my sneakers, you'll be faster. They put their sneakers on famous athletes. Their marketing is all about the emotion, the grit, the sweat that it takes to be an athlete. And if you go to their website, there are some amazing stories they've created where they show athletes of all abilities using, wearing the Nike gear, using their products. And it's just saying, whoever you are, just do it. And oh, by the way, wear our sneakers, wear our shirts. But I think it's the storytelling and the emotion that is amazing. The other brand I'm going to mention that I'm a big fan of is IKEA.
Ah, okay.
Right?
All right. I like
Think about it. All right. I just said IKEA. What just popped into your head, right? You probably had the blue and yellow.
Yes,
Swedish.
Absolutely. Uh-huh.
You probably had some kind of modern, fun room setup.
Meatballs.
Oh, I was not thinking meatballs. Yes. My kids love their cafeteria.
Yeah.
Like, Mom, can we go eat at IKEA? I'm
exactly.
Sure?
I'd be lying if I haven't said I have not eaten at IKEA.
So, but where IKEA excels is they know themselves. We're talking about the authenticity. They are not high-end furniture. They are, hopefully, they're your forever piece. I mean, I'll tell you, I still have IKEA furniture in my house from when I was in middle school.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
That is taking
So
it back. I was going to say, I've had some IKEA furniture for a very long time, but that definitely beats what my
yeah.
IKEA gear in my house.
So they don't, they don't pretend to be something that they're not. Their marketing is playful, tongue in cheek, fun. And what I also like is they show clients again of, in their marketing, they have all different types of demographics that they show. So they are trying to put across this image that we are for everyone, but we're not everything to everyone. So, take a look at IKEA. I think and they offer an amazing experiential experience. You go into their store and it's so much fun to go into their different room setups and imagine yourself there. But the one brand I'm going to probably surprise you with, Jason, that I
Okay.
think that, again, people should pay attention to is Vans.
You know what? I could see you say that, and immediately I think of the checkerboard, right? Yeah, I get it.
So to explain Vans, I would, many people probably know the brand, but here's what's really fascinating. So Vans started, I should have looked it up. I think it was like early 70s or so. And that's, it's a skateboard brand started in Southern California. So when you think of it, it kind of has an irreverent, youthful, a little bit counterculture style to it. Well, what was fascinating is I was reintroduced to Vans. Of course, I knew Vans in my teenage years, all the skater kids, cool kids in school, which was you, right, Jason? Grunge, skater. Yeah.
Absolutely. I was Vans from head to toe.
So, but I was reintroduced it because my younger son was playing Roblox and he was playing a Vans game. And I was like, what the what? So they had how smart of their marketing and branding. So they looked at what was the next audience that they needed to appeal to. So they created a Roblox game. My son had so much fun pretending to be a skater, navigating through the Roblox, universe with Vans. So then he was all excited, right? He bought into the brand. And I was like, oh, my little mom heart, was pitter pattering. I was like, oh yeah, I'll get you Vans gear. So we go to the Vans store. The branding goes to the next level. The employees were these genuine, authentic kids that were just themselves. They were wearing some Vans clothing, but they were all shapes and sizes and personas and personalities and genuinely nice and helpful. And the in-store experience carried that brand even farther for me. So I'm giving you that example to kind of bring it back around to what we were talking about is the authenticity. And you get introduced to the brand somehow, from my youth and then seeing my child play it on Roblox. But the experience in the store with the employees is what carried it through. So I wanted to, circle back to something we talked about earlier. We were talking about digital and how digital is omnipresent. And I meant to say at that time that I don't want people who hear this to think of that, oh, we have to ignore digital or, we can't be efficient with it. I wanted to bring up CRM because if you're using your CRM system and you have your clients in there, you're tracking your contacts with your clients and the frequency that you're working with them, then you can use a digital platform to tee up the clients that you really should be talking to and reaching out to and allowing technology and something digital to remind you of when you should be reaching out and making those authentic connections. So I didn't want to overlook that tip that I wanted to make sure I shared out there.
Well, I think everything, digitally, I feel like everything is a supplement to what we do. Like the core of what we do is relationships, right? Mm-hmm. How can we best support those relationships? And digital comes in that's one leg of the stool, right? To support what we do, but it's not the only thing. Mm-hmm. And I think sometimes we get focused on that being just the only thing that we have to do to market ourselves. And that's just not true, right? Is the digital. I wanted to go back to your brands. And you made me think of a couple that kind of I admire. One is Geico. Now, say what you want to say about Geico. Isn't Geico a Berkshire Hathaway brand? Yeah, I did not do that on purpose. I want to make sure to mention that. But say what you want to say about Geico. They have some of the most memorable branding that you will ever think since they've started. I mean, I can think of just countless commercials that have made me laugh. And I know the brand, right? Everybody knows the brand. I want to mention the Philadelphia Eagles. I think they do a fantastic job of branding. If you watch some of their videos during the season, to kind of like their pep rallies kind of thing, they do a fantastic job with that. They do a lot of work in the community. They put solar panels on the stadium. They have a great, and they brand it, right. They put it out there for consumers to know. I feel like they do a great job of branding themselves. And then last but not least, you and I were talking about this a little bit. I want to give a shout out to some local brands that I love, which one being is I drink a ton of coffee, right? So I am a huge Backyard Beans fan for people out there that may know in the Lansdale Ambler area, they have stores. They do a fantastic job of their branding. I'm in love with what they put out. And there is a little Italian restaurant in my hometown of Ambler called Sorrentino that Ann and I go there probably way, way too much. We eat way too much pasta, but they have great branding, very classy, very elegant script in their branding that I really love. Their color scheme is awesome. So I just want to give a shout out to those companies because, I like we talked about, I'm hyper focused on what's out there because I want to, let's be honest, I want to steal some ideas for my branding. And if it fits, I'm going to use it and put my own spin on it. So I hope people will do the same out there. Pay attention to what's out there and use it is what I would say. Do you agree with that, Melissa?
Absolutely. And actually, I was going to dig a little deeper to what you just said is, again, Jason and I were chatting with this before we started recording. And I know that Jason puts his branding, his personal branding on some Backyard Beans products. So, if you're in the area, go get a cup of coffee. You might just see Jason's logo there. But the point to that is that is some excellent branding on Jason's part. So he identified something that, number one, he loved. And you guys can't see this, we're recording on Zoom. He has drunk from his cup of coffee multiple times while we've been talking. I myself have feared that you'll hear me gulping or slurping. So my coffee hasn't been touched yet. But the point is that Jason identified a company that he felt he would feel good partnered with in his local community. He looked around, he said, who's the community that I want to work with? Okay, it's my local community. What is a local company that I want to work with? He identified it, he approached them, and he's doing some advertising on some of their products. So that is a great example of taking your personal brand and affiliating with something that's going to help you get it out there. So branding, as I was sort of preparing of, what did I want to say and share in this interview today, is branding is part science and analytics, and it's part creativity. So it's about identifying what do you want to align with and who's your audience. That's the science and the analytics of it. And then as Jason said earlier, if something's not working, adjust. That's part of your analytics. But the creativity then is whatever your expression is, whether it's video, emails, graphic design, et cetera.
Yeah. And going back to, to the coffee brand, it is, they're in my target market, right? Where's my target market? They are in my wheelhouse, right? Number one, I drink their coffee all the time. Number two, like it was a no brainer, right? So we were able to get advertising on coffee sleeves, and I'm super excited that this year everything is in color. So last year was in black and white. This year it's in color. Just ordered my sleeves. They will be coming out. Actually, they'll be running from May until July this year. And so I already told them next year I better have the spring market because there are other companies that they advertise as well. And I told them in no uncertain terms, like, you better reserve the spring market for me next year. So I think I'm from like February to like, I think like May or June next year. So I already have that set up, and like you said, it's in my target market. I think about who my audience is, who I want to work with, right? Think about who you want to work with. I think and where are those people? Where are you finding those people? And so I think you have to think long and hard about that when you're branding yourself out there in the community. So Melissa, do you want to add anything to that before we get out of here?
No. I want the audience to walk away from this podcast, or maybe they're listening to it while they're walking or running. Is a plug for a Fit Fox Tribe.
Yeah, right.
But I want people to walk away from this, that branding is not a logo. A logo might be part of it. So whether it's your brokerage logo, whether it's your personal logo, but branding is about the voice and the personality that you put out there to your clients. And it is going to change over time. Things that we looked at that we did 10 years ago, even a year ago, you might go, oh gosh, that's cringy. Why did I do that? But it grows and matures over time, and that's okay, because you learn how to illustrate yourself and put yourself out there over time, and also based on the feedback you get from your clients. And that's another thing is, again, when I was thinking about what I was going to say, I wanted to make sure there were actionable steps that I helped the audience to think about. So that goes back to what I said about the foundations of the different steps you could take in how to start your branding. But there's also, if you're feeling, gosh, I don't even know how to get started, talk to trusted family and friends, talk to maybe some past clients. What would they say about you? What are the strengths that come up? Are you, do you come across, we were joking about my big vocabulary. I know I have a big vocabulary. Or I use big words. So, I'm not sure how I would spin that into branding, but, what is it about your personality or how you approach your relationships and how you approach connecting with your clients, and what your trusted friends, family, and past clients tell you is the nuggets you can take to then expand your branding message?
Well, I would say your vocabulary needs to be in your tagline. So like you could be Mr. Cunningham, the ephemeral agent, I don't know.
I don't want to be ephemeral.
Yeah, I was just going to say that's not probably fitting your brand. But, fascinating conversation, Melissa. Like seriously, I could talk about this all day because it is something near and dear to my heart. That I think about things constantly, like, and maybe I'm just a real estate nerd and I think about these things all the time. But I do think we have to think about these things all the time because, like you said, these things do evolve. If you come up with a new creative, I love coming up with new creative ideas that I can put into practice in my business, right? I get really excited about doing that. And I hope all of you listening kind of feel the same way that I do, is that things change over time and you have to try new things. So, Melissa, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it. This was awesome. So thank you so much. And I'm glad you survived Vegas, by the way.
I know. Yeah. Yeah. I was a little unsure of our scheduling here right after Vegas, but we're here upright.
We're semi here mentally.
Mostly coherent.
Yeah, mostly coherent. Anyway, thanks, Melissa, for your time, and I'm sure I'll be talking to you soon.
Thanks. This was excellent.
That was the episode this week with Melissa Cunningham. We thank her for her time. Here are a couple of takeaways that I had from my conversation with Melissa. Number one, part of having a strong personal brand is to have a brand to begin with, right? So think about if you do not have a logo, if you do not have a tagline, to some of you that may seem a little cheesy, but this day and age, there are so many people that are trending in that direction with their business that you almost get left behind if you don't have a strong personal brand. So if you do not have a logo, if you do not have a tagline, please think about getting one, number one. And number two, if you need help with it, Melissa and the marketing team can certainly do so. So that's number one. Start off with actually having a brand, a logo, a tagline, marketing, you name it. You want to build your personal brand. Number two, once you build that personal brand, once you have those marketing pieces in place, then you want to make sure that you are consistent throughout your platforms with that marketing, with that branding. So for example, social media should all have a similar look and feel to it. Maybe similar colors, maybe similar fonts, maybe a similar logo. You want to make sure that it is uniform and consistent across all platforms so people know that it is you when you post to, say, social media or you do a marketing piece out in the community. It matches what you're doing online, right? If people Google you, they can find that consistent branding across all your platforms.
And lastly, whatever you're doing to convey your personal brand, make sure that you are authentic with your brand, because that's the most important piece. Melissa talks about authenticity throughout this entire episode. And I feel like authenticity is just something in general that we always have to convey to our clients, to the marketplace, to the people that we're trying to serve. If you're not authentic, then chances are people are going to see through that. So whatever your authentic self is, make sure that you are aware of that when it comes to your branding. Take the time to think about how best to convey your message to the public. Does it reflect who you are as a person? Does it reflect your values? Are you marketing to people who share similar interests as you? You need to think about all this with your personal branding and get it out there to the masses. Well, that's it for this week's episode. We will be back in another couple of weeks with a new topic, a new guest, and as always, if you want to hear something that we haven't covered yet, please reach out to me, jason.ostrowski@foxroach.com. And if you haven't liked and subscribed to the podcast or left us a review, please do so. It helps us to reach more people. Once again, this is Jason Ostrowski saying stay safe out there, stay selling, and we'll catch you on the next episode of the Everything Real Estate Podcast.